5 bone-chilling hauntings. Discover the spine-chilling secrets of new house nightmares revealed. The air in Maplewood, Ohio had never felt so heavy. As Sarah Reynolds stood on the front porch of her new Tudor-style home, she could sense something lurking just beneath the surface. It was supposed to be their fresh start, a charming neighborhood filled with flower-lined streets and the sweet scent of cookies wafting from neighboring houses. But as the sun dipped lower, shadows lengthened, and an unsettling chill seeped into her bones. What had she brought her children into? Little did she know, they were diving headfirst into a hidden world of spine-tingling secrets. While Jake and Emily bounded up the stairs giggling, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the house was watching them, its wide windows like wary eyes. The realtor had touted the home's cozy charm, but whispers echoed off the walls, making the hairs on her neck stand straight. She shook her head, attempting to brush off the paranoia. She was a single mother, fiercely independent, and she was not going to let a few creaking floorboards scare her. However, that night, as nightfall draped over Maplewood, she lay awake, entranced by eerie murmurs rippling through the air. Each night grew darker. Shadows flitted across the walls, breathy whispers seemed to trail her as she moved. Emily, usually so quiet, began to wake screaming, drenched in sweat, twisted in nightmares connected to their tutor, and Jake, once enamored with video games, spent hours staring blankly at the walls, consumed by an unshakable dread. Could it be merely a rough transition? Or was there something far more sinister playing on their vulnerabilities? Sarah's unease solidified into a determination to protect her kids. Moving in here had felt like destiny, but now it felt like a curse. Thoughts of the previous residents began to invade her mind like gnawing pests. She had to learn the truth behind this housing nightmare. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah dove into research, hearts pounding as she uncovered the painful stories of the neighborhood, a community once bright but now stripped of its voice. Each revelation only heightened her resolve. She wasn't fighting just for her family but for a legacy buried beneath fear. Neighbors began to notice too, resonating with her passion. They gathered on porches, murmuring tales of spectral visitations and remnants of sorrow, their eyes steady with a shared commitment to reclaim their histories. But as the community united, dread wrapped tighter around their collective heart. Eerie occurrences intensified, gusts of wind turned to shrill wails, shadows spiraled into shapes of lingering despair. Standing at the town hall podium, determination coursing through her, Sarah could feel the spirit's breath on her neck, its anger growing. The room thickened with tension. The members shifted nervously, a whisper drifting through, "You think you can push me out?" As the air prickled with urgency, they prepared to confront the darkness together. The question hung heavy in the room. Could they claim their future, or would they be swallowed whole by the haunted whispers of the past? Uncertainty loomed, promising that only the truth could finally bring light to their shadowed lives. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ominous glow over Maplewood. Unease spread through Sarah as if the shadows were alive, weaving through the streets like invasive vines. The whispers weren't just echoes of the past, they began to morph, forming sentences that felt painfully clear. "Join us. Stay forever," hung in the night air, slithering into her ears. Tension bristled in the town hall meeting as Sarah's heart raced. The faces around her shifted from concern to horror as a collective realization dawned. They weren't simply dealing with a haunted house, they were facing a powerful force that sought to ensnare their lives. A frail man in the back, who hadn't spoken before, raised a shaking finger. "It's everyone's fault," he croaked, his eyes wild. "We ignored the warnings. We let that darkness in." A wave of murmurs spread through the crowd. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others exchanged fraught glances as Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. The words reverberated in her mind, "Let that darkness in." What if they were all responsible for awakening something evil? Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into blackness. Gasps pierced the silence, and when the lights returned, Sarah stepped forward, her resolve hardening. No more hiding. We need to confront it. We can't be afraid of what's in the dark. As her voice rose, the atmosphere shifted. The whispers morphed into low growls, a cacophony of discontent. The energy in the room turned palpable, suffocating even. Jake's face flashed in her mind, a reminder of what was at stake. "Trust your strength, Sarah," a chorus of voices began to chant from the shadows, echoing in the corners of the room. "Embrace the night." Fear morphed into fury, igniting a fire within her. "I want to be silenced. We've come together for strength, not in submission." As if triggered by her words, the walls of the hall shuddered. The lights flickered once more, then settled on her, intensifying. A dark form appeared at the back of the room, coiling with menace and anger. A swirling cloud of darkness, angry at the light of unity she had ignited. Eyes glimmered from within the shadow, piercing through the dank mist. "You've awakened me," it thundered, the voice a low rumble that made teeth chatter. "You should have left well enough alone." The people froze, the weight of fear heavy as they backed away. But Sarah stood firm, her feet glued to the floor, as she shouted, "We face you together. You will not take another family." With a howl that seemed to shake the very foundations of the hall, the entity lunged forward. She could feel the chill fill her lungs, her breath hitching in her throat, but she held her ground, heart pounding like a war drum. Just then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed Emily clinging to the edge of her sleeve, eyes wide with terror. "Mom, let us get out of here." But was there even a way out? Before she could turn, the shadow surged, engulfing the light, pushing Sarah and her community to the brink, raising the unmistakable question: could they truly outshine the darkness, or was their struggle destined to end in despair? The atmosphere thickened as she stared into the unending void, dread battling for dominance inside her. Each heartbeat echoed a truth forgotten: their fight had just begun, but how far would they have to go to reclaim their lives? The thought gripped her with icy fingers. What if the key to defeating the darkness lay not outside, but within each soul present? As chaos erupted, one thing became glaringly obvious: they were running out of time. The entity surged, a relentless tide of shadow closing in, the chill biting into Sarah's skin like icy daggers. She felt the energy drain from the room, the collective fear suffocating the flicker of hope she had kindled. Panic spread like wildfire, screams erupted, chaos rippled. The townspeople stumbled backward, eyes wide with terror, their unity fracturing just when they needed it most. "Stay together," Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the din. "We can't let it divide us." But even as she spoke, the darkness writhed, feeding off their fear, twisting it into shrill laughter that echoed through the hall. Emily's grip tightened on her sleeve, and Sarah could see the tremor in her daughter's hands. "Mom, I can't breathe," the girl whimpered. A knot twisted in Sarah's stomach. She realized that she had to anchor herself, not just for her daughter, but for everyone in that room clinging to the dim light of her resolve. With a desperate breath, she found her voice again. "Everyone. Close your eyes. Picture a light inside you, a light we build together." Faces flickered back toward her, hope sparking hesitantly in their pupils. Slowly, they followed her lead. Sarah drew a deep breath and channeled every ounce of her strength into that vision, an unwavering, radiant orb at her core that illuminated the darkness around her. "Now, share that light," she urged, fighting against the pressure of the shadow pressing in. "Let it spill over and connect with one another. We are stronger as one." One by one, dim lights flared to life in their hearts, igniting a pale glow that began to push the darkness back, inch by inch. The murmurs of courage rose to a harmonizing chant: "Together. Together." The dark entity writhed, shrieking in a sound that resonated deep into their bones. The air thickened with a potency that crackled as they surrendered their fears and embraced their collective strength. They were united, an army of flickering lights pushing back against the relentless tide. But then, just as hope began to carve away at the shadows, a strange pulse echoed through the air, ominous and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The lights faltered for a moment, dimming, as if the very fabric of their connection was unraveling. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, voice straining against the onslaught. "Don't let it break us." The trembling shadow coalesced, shifting dangerously, its form shifting into faces lost loved ones with hollow eyes and twisted smiles. You cannot escape what you have awakened, it hissed, mocking them with familiar voices. You belong to us now. Her heart thundered, and Sarah stumbled, her momentary weakness flaring the darkness. But she refused to falter. No. You're wrong. She cried, a fierce conviction sweeping through her again. We are not yours. As the chanting surged, the townspeople's lights blazed brighter. Every memory of love, every shred of understanding bonded them stronger, and the faces of their loved ones faded, replaced with the realization of their own collective dreams and desires. Just as it seemed they had the upper hand, a piercing scream cut through the room. Help me. The sound was raw and desperate, echoing from beyond the dark. Panic seized Sarah, freezing her in place. It wasn't just the darkness threatening them, but someone or something was struggling within it. Who is that? Emily cried, eyes wide as she searched the swirling gloom. There it was again, more urgent. Wake up. You have to wake up. The plea penetrated Sarah's fast, chaotic thoughts. Her heart skipped a beat. What if someone was trapped inside? What if they could save them? Listen. She yelled, breaking through the rising dread. We can't just fight. We have to find out who needs us. The energy shifted once more, the atmosphere matting together with confusion. The darkness writhed, disturbed by their awakening. As the shadows flickered and shimmered, the heart-wrenching cry resonated, drawing her in like a moth to flame. What if the path to victory meant risking it all? Gathering her courage, Sarah shouted, on my count. Focus your lights. There was no turning back now. And as their united brightness began to pulse in sync, she felt a sliver of fear mixed with an undeniable yearning for truth. 3, 2, 1. And then they plunged into the heart of darkness, ready to confront whatever horror waited within. Would they uncover the truth, or would it consume them? The question lingered in the suffocating air, a chill settling deep in their bones as they dove into an uncertain fate. Sarah felt an electric jolt as they breached the threshold of darkness. Panic clawed at her insides, but she focused. The chorus of light surrounded her, strong and unwavering, yet the shadows were insatiable, swirling like a vortex determined to pull them under. Inside, the air felt heavy, thick with dread. Whispers slithered through the darkness, a symphony of torment and regret. Each murmur wrapped itself around her, pulling her back, urging her to turn away. Don't listen, she thought. Don't let it in. Mom. Emily's voice trembled beside her, a gentle reminder of the light they shared. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand tighter, fortifying their bond against the encroaching despair. Look for the source. Sarah commanded, her voice firm despite the chaos. We need to find where that scream came from. Drawing in a breath, she directed their collective light forward, illuminating jagged shapes and horrific visages that clawed the edges of her mind. The faces that distorted in the dark weren't just memories, they were manifestations of fears, doubts, and losses meticulously crafted to sow confusion. Keep your focus. She shouted as more tortured cries erupted, a cacophony of anguish threatening to drown them. The cries twisted, becoming familiar tones, calling out to them. Memories of lost friends, family who had slipped away into the void. They were all there, swirling in the night. Sarah's heart raced as she recognized one voice, clear and panicked. Mom. Help me. John. She gasped, her breath hitching. The name pierced through the shadows like a spear. It was her old friend, a soul lost long ago to heartbreak and sorrow. John. Where are you? Over here. He cried, desperation lacing his words, drawing Sarah forward against the dark tide. The brilliance of the townspeople's lights flickered and dimmed, struggling against the swell of despair that threatened to engulf them. Everyone, hold on. Sarah urged, feeling the tremors ripple through those around her. He needs us. But as she pushed deeper, the shadows surged forward, consuming the light within. The pull was agonizing, like cold fingers wrapping around her throat, squeezing until her vision blurred. No, no, no. She gasped as she fought the tendrils of darkness. Emily cried out, her small voice wavering. "Mom! I can't hold it." The glow from their light dimmed further, and fear gripped Sarah's heart. What if they lost everything, lost each other before they even found John? "Fight! Fight with everything you have!" Sarah shouted, summoning the last reserves of courage. Sweat trickled down her spine as she felt the energy waning, each heartbeat echoing in her ears like thunderclaps. Suddenly, a fleck of shimmering light caught her eye, a flicker against the enveloping void. It pulsed gently, a beacon amidst the chaos. "This way!" she barked, leading the townspeople towards it. As they moved, shadows swirled furiously, angered by their defiance. "You're too late!" the entity howled, voices of the lost mixing into one menacing warning. "You will pay for your defiance." "No!" Sarah clenched her fists, fueled by the desperate screams of her friend. "Together! We can break this!" In one last push, they bolstered their lights, flooding the surroundings with golden brightness. But as they approached the flickering light, a horrific sight split the darkness, an opening, revealing a twisted reflection of their town, drenched in shadows and despair. "Every light casts a shadow," the entity echoed, its voice mocking. "And you are no different." As their eyes widened in fear, Sarah realized it was pulling them not just to save John, but to expose their own hidden darkness. Would they confront their own fears, or would the shadows consume them entirely? "What have we awakened?" she asked, heart pounding. The answer loomed ahead, just out of reach, threatening to tear them apart from within. With a final surge, they rushed towards the flickering glow, but as they neared, it pulsated faster, flickering in and out like a dying star. And then everything went black. What awaited them in that void? Would they find John? Or would they be swallowed by the very darkness they had fought to escape? Sarah's eyes fluttered open, greeted by an oppressive blackness. The void pressed against her from all sides, cold and suffocating. Confusion seized her mind as she blinked into the darkness, struggling to recall how they had arrived here. "Emily?" she called, her voice trembling, swallowed by the stillness. "Right here, Mom," Emily replied, her voice a wisp of sound in the heavy air. Relief washed over Sarah, but it quickly transformed into anxiety as she couldn't see her daughter's face. "What happened?" "I don't know." Sarah's heart raced, each beat drumming against her ribcage. "We have to keep moving." They stumbled forward, the ground beneath them rough and uneven, as whispers crept through the shadows, pooling around them. Ghostly echoes twisted and threatened to pull them apart. Fear clawed at their resolve. Suddenly, the silence shattered. "You're trapped," a voice hissed, slithering through the dark. "You cannot escape your truth." "What do you mean?" Sarah shouted, her voice laced with a mix of fear and defiance. The sound was met with chilling laughter that seemed to bounce around them like a cruel taunt. "Your darkness has come home," the voice rasped. "Embrace it. Don't listen to it, Emily," Sarah instructed, squeezing her daughter's hand tightly as they pressed on. But how could she not feel the twinge of doubt? The shadows were circling, biting and gnashing at their heels, almost daring them to look back. As they forged ahead, snippets of visions ignited the darkness. Flashes of the town, bathed in the light of day, but twisted, distorted faces peering back at her, eyes wide with despair. Friends she hadn't thought of in years, their silhouettes morphing into anguished cries, pricking her heart with memories of loss and regret. "Mom, I see them," Emily gasped. Sarah turned sharply, panic rising as she processed her daughter's words. "No, Em. Don't look. Just focus on my voice." But the shadows began to wrap around them, tender fingers drawing them into the memories, pulling them closer to those they had lost. The voice of John broke through again, shrill and desperate. "Sarah, don't let them win. Remember. Fight back. John. Where are you?" Sarah shouted into the void, desperation crackling in her chest. But all that returned was the intoxicating lure of her own guilt and pain, the memories overwhelming her senses. Face us. The entity taunted, its mockery reverberating around them. What lies beneath your skin, dear Sarah? Get away from us. She screamed, shaking her head fiercely as she fought to dispel the specters swirling around. The walls of this darkness pressed in tighter, suffocating, and as she fought to resist, she felt her strength waning. Emily's voice broke through softly, "Mom, I can feel them. They're scared too. Just like us." Scared? Sarah echoed, confusion lacing her words. What do you mean? They're not just, they're lost, Emily said, trembling. We can help them. We can help us. A flicker surged within her, ignited by her daughter's bravery. Then let us do it together. We can't let them win. With renewed determination, Sarah directed her light once more, this time grabbing Emily and embracing the fears, showing the lost souls that they were not alone. We're all in this together. Suddenly, everything erupted into chaotic brilliance, a fight between light and dark surging within the churn of shadows. But within that brilliance, shadows clawed back, swirling in anger, the darkness screamed, the porcelain masks of despair cracking under the weight of emotion. You cannot change what you are. You are lost. It shouted, and for a moment, Sarah felt the truth in those words. But as the shadows lunged toward them, she shouted, "We decide who we are." In that moment of defiance, something within the shadows trembled. The tide shifted, drawing Sarah and Emily closer to the flickering light ahead. Hope surged as they advanced, but then the malevolent laughter returned, sounding closer than ever. Welcome home, lost children. You've come so far, but will you survive the final truth? What awaited at the end of this harrowing journey? Would Sarah be able to face the reality that lay ahead? The surge of hope flickered like a dying ember as Sarah and Emily clung to each other, moving closer to the radiance ahead. But the laughter, the taunting, melodic laughter wrapped around them, tightening its grip like a vice. Sarah's resolve danced on a razor's edge. Keep going, Mom. We can't go back. Emily whispered, her voice strained but firm. The shadows writhed, and Sarah felt the chill of unease slice through her as the darkness surged forward, clawing at their heels like wild animals in pursuit. Together. Sarah shouted, gripping Emily's hand tighter. They pushed ahead, determined to breach the veil of gloom that threatened to consume them. The air thickened, heavy with whispers of regret and sorrow that trailed them, each echo resonating with stories never told. Face it, this is your reality. The voice slithered around them, seeping into their thoughts. You can't escape the past. Panic prickled at Sarah's skin. Memories flooded back, voices of those they'd lost, painting torment in the air. John's face came into view, his laughter ringing in her ears, suddenly shrouded with shadows that twisted and morphed like something out of a nightmare. No. I want to let you take her. She yelled, a primal scream bursting forth. As if responding to her battle cry, the shadows recoiled, afraid of her rage. But then, amid the chaos, the memories shifted from agonizing to illuminating. Sarah, Emily breathed, her tone even softer, almost serene. What if we could help them? What do you mean? Sarah's chest tightened at the thought. They're trapped, Em. Just like us. Emily's feeble voice quivered with understanding. If they're afraid, maybe they don't realize they're lost. They need hope, too. We can't just fight against them, we need to guide them. A spark ignited in the depths of Sarah's heart. Could she really do that? Whispers wrapped around her emotions, squeezing until she could barely breathe, but her daughter's bright eyes shone with conviction. All right, she whispered, her voice steadier than she felt. We can guide them. With renewed purpose, she began to recall the happy memories, the light-hearted moments that had survived despite the darkness. Each recollection felt like armor, illuminating the space around them as they moved through the gloom. Listen. Sarah called, her voice echoing through the void. You're not alone. We're here with you. The shadows twisted as if caught off guard. Faces morphed in and out of view, profiles of those long lost to grief. As Sarah and Emily shared their memories, the figures began to stir, a flicker of hope dancing in their depths. Look! Sarah gasped, pointing toward a luminous figure emerging from the chaos. The familiar shape of John, a mixture of light and shadow, moved tentatively closer, his expression a mirror of longing and confusion. "Sarah, Emily," he said, voice wavering like a fragile thread, "I thought I'd lost you too, John." Sarah cried, tears stinging her eyes. Suddenly, a deep fear gripped her. Was this truly him, or another cruel illusion? But his eyes, his love for them, shattered her doubts. "You fought so hard. Don't let it overpower you now," he urged, the shadows around him swirling slower, beginning to dissolve. As the incredible sights unfolded around them, the once chilling darkness appeared to tremble. "You think you can save them?" the malevolent voice roared. Rage electrified the air, thickening their resolve, yet beneath the volatility, emotions climbed to a crescendo, and suddenly, the shadows began to peel back, revealing trapped souls cloaked in despair. "Together!" Sarah screamed, the fear vanishing into the strength found in unity. "We can change this." "What happens if we fail?" Emily's voice quaked, revealing the haunting question: what if the light wasn't enough? In that moment, as they stood amongst the fragments of memory, questions started to take form. The darkness whispered its threats. Would they truly guide these lost souls to freedom, or would they succumb to despair themselves? The radiant light pulsed ahead, but shadows loomed around it, each entwined with uncertainty. What awaited them in its glow? Would they find salvation, or only more darkness? The shadows roared in anguish, their forms writhing like black smoke. Emily's grip on Sarah tightened, her knuckles pale against the onslaught of despair. There was something unnerving about the figures emerging from the dark, those faces twisted in agony, marked by their regrets. Each one tethered to some unfinished business, a task unfulfilled. "Look, Mom." Emily pointed, her voice rising with urgency. "If we can see them, maybe they can see us, too." Sarah inhaled sharply, then called out with as much strength as she could muster, "We're here. We see you. We want to help." The response was a cacophony of whispers, echoing hauntingly through the atmosphere. Help us," each word dripped with a mixture of desperation and longing. As she stood there, she felt John's presence beside her, warm yet shattered. He looked at Sarah, his gaze piercing through the tempest of shadows. "You need to show them. They're afraid of the light. Then, we will help them step into it," Sarah declared, her heart pounding like a drum. She thought of all the love and laughter they had shared as a family, pieces of joy interwoven with the fabric of her grief. With fierce determination, she began to speak the names of the lost. "Richard, Annabelle, Marcus. Come to us," she chanted, pouring her heart into each syllable. The air shimmered with tension, shadows thrashing wildly, their owners scrambling in reaction. "Do you really believe you can save them?" The sinister voice sneered again, a chilling laugh cutting through Sarah's resolve. "They've accepted the darkness as their home. You'll only drag yourselves down with them." "No!" Sarah shouted, her voice echoing against the crushing despair surrounding them. "We refuse to give in to your lies." The shadows hesitated, quaking slightly as if pulled by a magnetic force, hope. She could feel Emily beside her, heart racing in unison. Sarah took a deep breath and released it, pouring every ounce of faith into the memory that circled around her, connecting them to a world where love reigned. "Remember the sunrises. Remember the laughter." Sarah pleaded, desperate to instill a spark of warmth. "You are not alone. You never were. Follow the light." The shadows flickered at her call, hesitant silhouettes now wavering between despair and the faintest glimmer of hope. But then came the laughter again, mocking and echoing around them, the anger from the unseen voice rising like a storm. "You can't change what they are. They're mine." Absorbing that threat, Sarah felt her heart sink momentarily. Each pulse of the malevolent voice felt like a dagger to her collective resolve. But breaking through that darkness came the light, a radiant orb illuminating the edges of the void, gentle yet persistent, beckoning like an old friend. The trapped souls turned toward it instinctively, drawn to that warmth. Their faces stained by sorrow began to ripple with recognition. Together," Sarah urged, their hands locked, channeling everything they had into one singular moment. Emily squeezed her hand, the touch electrifying, sparking energy in Sarah's veins. As they both shouted, "We are with you." The glow intensified, lighting the path ahead. Yet, just as the shadows began to peel away, the voice erupted in fury. "You will regret this." A vortex of darkness surged around them, desperate to reclaim its lost victims. "Hold on," Sarah cried, her world tightening around them. Shadows clawed at the edges of their vision, fighting back against the illuminating power coursing through them. In that instant, they felt the weight of despair crush down on them, pressing against their lungs. Would they break free, or would the shadows pull them back into oblivion? The glow pulsated like a heartbeat, and Sarah's thoughts raced as her eyes darted around, searching for a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. They couldn't falter now what lay ahead. Would they touch the light, or would darkness swallow them whole? At that moment of uncertainty, towering shadows unfurled, swirling dangerously around them, threatening to sink their hope back into the void. What horrifying outcome awaited them should they fail the glowing challenge ahead? The shadows roared louder, a tempest of anger and desire, twisting around Sarah and Emily like a suffocating fog. It felt as if the very air was thick with their sorrow, wrapping tightly around them, pushing down as they fought to ascend. We can't let them pull us under," Sarah shouted, forcing each word through gritted teeth. She felt Emily's hand tremble in hers, a fragile thread of hope braided tight by fear. The glowing orb flickered again, its light a warm pulse against the freezing grip of despair. "Focus on the light," Emily cried, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We can't give up now." Flashes of warmth flickered in the dark silhouettes. Faces she recognized, strangers once, now tinged with a glimmer of familiarity as their moments hung like dreams on the edges of memories. The laughter of her childhood mixed with the sorrow of loss, creating a haunting symphony that reverberated through the darkness. Their combined energy leaked out, a shimmering smoke of lost potential and relentless hope trying to break free. But the sinister voice lashed out at them, the words echoing like a whip cracking through the silence. "Despair is your only ally. You abandon them, and you'll be left to wander forever just like them." "No!" Sarah screamed back, the force of her voice vibrant, electrifying the air around her. "We will not be part of your darkness. We believe. We know love can pierce through any night." She felt courage swell in her chest, as if John's spirit was breathing alongside her, fueling her resolve. Behind them, the shadows swelled angrily, growling like trapped beasts, hungry to reclaim the lost spirits lured by the light. It roared in unison, filling the void with a cold menace that dripped dread. No longer just an angry whisper, it grew into a consuming threat. "Emily, take a step back," Sarah quickly urged, scanning the horrific display. Suddenly, an explosion of darkness surged straight towards them. It came crashing like thunder, rippling through the light, eager to snuff it out. In an act of desperation, Sarah unleashed another flood of names: Henry, Lila, Joan. "Come with us." The air shimmered hope, fiery and unyielding, flickered in response. The shadows wavered, clutching at their hosts, torn between the despair pulsing through their existence and the beckoning warmth of the radiance. "Why are you doing this?" The voice bellowed, the mocking tone now edged with disbelief. "You're meddling with forces beyond your comprehension. You can't save them from what they've chosen." With the heart of a lion and the love of a mother, she yelled back, arms stretched wide as if to embrace every lost soul. "Because they deserve another chance. No one should be condemned to darkness forever." The shadows stilled momentarily, whispers spiraling into silence as if they were contemplating her words. Could they really break free? But before Sarah could fully breathe in the hope, a palpable chill flooded the space. An icy finger traced down her spine, and she knew instinctively that the response was not merely going to be a whisper, but a violent retaliation. Then let them suffer with you. The voice howled, and the whole world seemed to convulse in a wild frenzy, shadows clawing towards them with unforgiving fingers. Strength, M. Hold on to me. Sarah shrieked, feeling the fabric of reality shift violently around them. Their connection faltered for just a moment, and as each soul hovered between light and dark, the shadows began to twist again, dragging fragments of Emily and Sarah back into darkness. Would they stand resolute together against the tide, or would the very act of reaching for their lost loved ones seal their fates in eternal night? Then, amidst the chaos, a blinding pulse of light erupted, pushing violently against the shadows, forcing them into potential submission. Or was it a trick? With everything they fought for crashing around them, Sarah felt a shattering dread ripple through her like electric ants. What could break the cycle? Could love withstand such darkness? And if they failed, what would become of them? A rupture wide enough to swallow their very souls loomed directly ahead, pulsing with relentless energy. The shadows sneered, waiting hungrily for any sign of weakness. What awaited them as they approached that shimmering fracture? Would they find deliverance, or would they be the last remnants swallowed by an everlasting night? The blinding pulse surged like a tidal wave, enveloping Sarah and Emily in its warm embrace. For an instant, the shadows recoiled, slippery tendrils of darkness retreating from the encroaching light. Sarah clutched Emily's hand tighter, adrenaline pouring through her veins. But the voice, now infuriated, pierced through the shimmering barrier. You think you can challenge me with a flicker? You're a fool. Your love is weak, just another light to consume. With those words, the shadows retaliated, coiling back with unprecedented ferocity. The air twisted, almost solidifying into frigid shards that threatened to slice them open. The chamber trembled, reverberating with the echoes of the lost. Keep going, Sarah. We have to draw them in. Emily shouted, her voice trembling but resolute. Shadows rose in swarming masses, each one a silhouette of struggle and pain, wraiths of forgotten lives caught in the motion of a life unlived. Each face was a twisted mask of agony, yearning, and hunger, eager to reclaim what they had lost. Henry. Lila. Joan. Sarah shouted again, pouring everything she had into those names. We can save you. A faint shimmer flared from the orb in her hand, illuminating the expressions of lost souls. The light thawed the icy grip of despair, even if just for a moment. Tiny flickers of hope shot through the crowding darkness like embers taking flight. Don't let the shadows drown us. Emily cried, her voice rising above the sound of the tempest. They can't take us if we don't let them. Focus on your reasons. Your love. Forcing her heart to remember, Sarah summoned each cherished memory: warm afternoons baking in the sun, laughter igniting the air around them, fingers entwining on moonlit nights stolen from the world. The shadows quivered, vibrating with the intensity of their struggle. Could it be that mere love could shatter their siege? Or would it be their doom, breaking them apart into the endless echo of torment? Suddenly, the ground beneath them quaked violently, and Sarah stumbled. The shadowy mass warped and twisted, pulsating ominously. It radiated darkness so profound it seemed to suck the very light from her existence. Fight it, Sarah. Emily urged, her voice sharp with determination. Don't let go. But the shadows lunged once more, their sharp edges scorching the warm glow in an otherworldly clash of tension. The air thickened with turmoil, a harrowing storm of loss and despair that threatened to swallow them whole. A newfound resolve surged within Sarah. In the heart of that despair, she felt a burning need, a desperate urge to save not only the shadows surrounding them but to fight for a love that never waned. I will not let you take them. She screamed into the void. They have a right to live. The shadows hissed, narrowing in on them like beasts closing on their prey. Just then, the orb quaked in her palm, and an electric current shot through it. A piercing light erupted from within it, way beyond anything she had conjured before. It blasted outward, sizzling against the icy breath of darkness, scattering the shadows like shards of glass, but before they could celebrate their victory, the voice howled again, this time filled with a chilling exasperation. You think this is over? You cannot win against choices made and paths forged. In a moment, the light flickered and dimmed, caught in the chaos. Grim shadows surged back, relentless, greedy for the hope they had nearly snuffed out. What now? Emily gasped, fear creeping into her words. Before Sarah could respond, she heard a whisper echoing through the chaos, brushing against her thoughts like a soft breeze. Look within, the truth lies there. Panic and determination twisted together in her mind. What hidden strength could she call upon? As the shadows coiled tighter, ready to draw them in, she felt an inexplicable urge to confront what resided in the depths of her own heart. What truth awaited discovery? Could they awaken something powerful enough to turn the tide, or would that whisper lead them into the deeper shadows of despair? Sarah's breath quickened as she took a step forward, ready to face the unknown. The shadows pulsed around Sarah, twisting with rage and fear, yet she felt an undeniable flicker of hope surging inside her. She knew now that the transformation she sought wasn't just a fight against the darkness outside but a confrontation with the shadows lurking within her. Listen to me, she shouted, her voice echoing through the chaos. We are not the sum of our failures. We are more. Our love and memories hold power far beyond what you can ever take from us. She could feel Emily's small hand squeezing tightly in hers, a reminder of their bond, a tether to the light. As if responding to her declaration, the dark entities recoiled momentarily, caught off guard by the fierceness of their shared will. The air sparkled with fresh energy, illuminating tiny gaps in the oppressive mass. Sarah took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of love and loss within her, every cherished moment etched in her mind, pulling it into presence. Together, she roared, her voice stronger than it had ever been. From the depths of despair emerged flickers of light that danced in tandem with their declarations. We reach for hope. Each lost soul around her once terrifying haunts now began to illuminate with soft glows of recognition. It's time to let go, she urged. We can guide you back to the light. You don't have to stay here. One by one, their faces began to shake off the chains of sorrow that bound them. Familiar expressions of loved ones long lost found clarity in their features, twisted grief morphing into soft smiles. Sarah's heart swelled. There were no shadows that could silence the gifts of love, connection, and unity when fiercely called upon. Each plea for help emanated forth, spilling into the dark like wildflowers blooming against a barren landscape. Then the voice, filled with scorn and disbelief, erupted through the air. You think they'll listen? They are trapped. Oh, but they will, Sarah countered, feeling Emily's warmth radiating beside her. They've lost hope, but we can help them remember. They are not doomed. It's time to reclaim what was lost. The shadows howled in frustration, swirling like a tempest as Sarah and Emily stood resolute. They could hear the anguished cries from the depths of the darkness, voices breaking free of the pain that had shackled them. Sarah, John's voice rang out, deeper now. You've awakened us. You believed. His figure stepped closer, solidifying as hope surged among the gathered souls. Guide us home. And just like that, Sarah sensed the collective warmth of the town rise, a powerful tide pushing back against the shadows. Each spirit began to take shape. Henry, Annabelle, Marcus, they coalesced, bathed in the soft brilliance emanating from love's clarion call. The shadows surged backward, shrieking in protest as they began to lose their grasp on those they had tormented. No! The dark entity cried, its rage igniting the air around them. You will regret this. They belong to darkness. But Sarah's heart was unwavering. No! They belong to the light. Each one of you together, your stories can outshine any darkness that dares to choke the breath out of you. With her declaration, they surged forward, hand in hand, hearts igniting with the very essence of their shared humanity. The shadows danced in fury, but they were losing their grip as light rushed in, overpowering the threats with radiant memories and unbreakable bonds. The cacophony of lost voices began to harmonize, a symphony embracing hope and love, swamping the darkness. With a final, massive push, they felt the walls of despair shake. The shadows faltered, fracturing under the blaze of determination. Now! Step into the light! Sarah cried, and with one last surge, they propelled forward together, the darkness split, a chasm of despair broken wide open, revealing the luminous landscape beyond, an escape from the nightmare, a return to the heart of their town bathed in dawn's embrace. As they moved through the fracture, Sarah clung fiercely to Emily, John flanking her, others surging towards the warmth that symbolized home. The dark entity shrieked, a sound that echoed with the weight of centuries. But Sarah and Emily had won their fight. They stumbled out into the light, breathless, shaken, but alive. The air felt sweet and filled with color. Maplewood stood resplendently normal, untouched yet transformed. The old tutor, still creaking from history, sat silently, as if now in submission to the love that had conquered its shadows. Visibly shaken but grinning, Sarah turned to her hesitant son and daughter, kneeling before them. "It's okay to remember, and it's okay to let go," she whispered, wiped tears brimming their eyes. "You both carried us through." "I'm not scared anymore, Mom," Jake said, glancing around with newfound confidence. Neither was she. They hugged tightly, fusing their strength together again. The town was buzzing, people whispered, exchanging glances as the sun climbed higher. They weren't just survivors of darkness, they were the light. They were alive. As their spirits soared, Sarah turned toward the looming tutor, filled with purpose. "We'll tell their stories," she vowed, her heart swelling. "Every person deserves to be remembered, not lost in the darkness." The community rallied, their shared history reclaimed, laughter and breathing deeply filled the air. It was a new dawn, not just for Maplewood but for them all, a reinvention of their lives, bound by love rather than fear, and every step forward was a reminder that they had faced the darkness together, and emerged as bright as the morning light. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.